Now, after a deadly shooting rampage at an ice rink in Rhode Island, police in Pawtucket identifying the shooter as Robert Dorgan, saying that Dorgan also used the names Roberta Esposito and Roberta Dorgana. Dorgan's ex-wife Rhonda Dorgan and adult son Aidan killed in the shooting. 3 other people, Rhonda's parents and a family friend, police say were critically wounded. We, of course, are working to get an update on their conditions. Pawtucket police have praised a group of courageous citizens, they say, who rushed to intervene in the attack, which investigators say ended when the suspect died by suicide. Michael Black is one of those good Samaritans who jumped into action. He joins us now to talk a little bit more about what happened. And Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Thank you very much, sir.
And first off, I wanted to ask you if you can kind of walk us through how everything happened on that day.
So we were going, it was on Monday, and basically it was supposed to be a festive occasion where the seniors celebrate with their parents. My wife and I were there celebrating with 2 friends and their son, supporting the day, and very good, wonderful day. Pictures, flowers, grandparents, all that. And in the first period, I remember looking up at the clock, and there was 10 minutes and 12 seconds, and then going back and watching the game. And in front of you, you heard a pop, pop. And initially it sounded like, 2 large balloons. And as I kind of peered my head around the corner, I heard another pop. And all I saw was someone holding a gun, aiming it at the family in the second row. At that point, when I saw the gun, my wife was sitting next to me with some friends, and all I said was, go. Oh, no, excuse me. I said, run, run. And my wife got up and her friends started running. So as the people started, I stayed seated, and as the people started running, there was a gap where I could see directly to the shooter. So I got on that 4th step and lunged and went, and my focus was the gun. It was the gun and trying to hit the shooter. And as I grabbed and reached, he was shooting. And at the time, I felt something hit my lip. And when I grabbed the gun, my hand got inserted in the shaft part of that, and it was stuck in there. And I was kind of on top of the shooter, inverted on the steps. And I put my hand down, and he was trying to pull his trigger, but the gun wouldn't shoot because my hand was in it. I was able to release his hand from it. And I had the gun in my hand as I'm laying down, and the shooter took his hand, put it underneath my chest, and just picked me up, put me over his back. So I'm flat-footed. I'm trying to get back to my feet. I still have the gun. And when he stood up, as I looked up, there was some good Samaritans and my heroes. And Bob jumped in, tried to grab him and try to squeeze him in the back and put him in a headlock. And I saw him kind of lean to the left. And next thing you know, everything swung right. And as I stood up, I looked down, and the shooters was in an inverted position, but looking directly up at me, and I was looking directly down. I was prepared to take my knee, and I was going to try to suppress him, and I'm still holding the gun. And he put his left hand into his pocket and pulled out another gun, and I started going, there's another gun, another gun. And he took the gun and put it in his mouth and shot himself.
As you're watching all of this kind of happen, you jumped into action and you talked about how it happened, but explain to me what made you want to jump in immediately and help.
My first concern was my wife and her friends. That was the safety side. But as I told them to run, I stayed seated. There wasn't a lot of thought. The thought was at that point was get rid of that gun. There was a pop, pop, pop. The focus was the gun. And as soon as I had that clear side of it, I just jumped at him.
How did maybe some of previous training kind of help you to intervene? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I've really had no formal training. The one thing that I do recognize that after I flew a lot for my job, and in 2001 and 9/11, I had to fly 4 days after, and I was flying 100,000 miles a year, but and I was always focused on exit and what would happen. Always exit, what would happen, and I did this for flights for the next 10 years. If something happened, if something happened, but I didn't prepare myself for that moment, nor did I have any formal training. But I think that did play something in my mind in regards to my initial action.
And so many people have referred to you as a hero for your actions. Of course, you were calling the other Good Samaritans who stepped in your heroes. How do you feel about being called a hero, as of course you are? You helped so many people there.
You know, I appreciate people saying that. I still don't feel like a hero. You know, my heroes are my mom and my dad, my brothers and sister, and who've supported me, you know, countless efforts of my life. But I think it's a thoughtful, but I don't deserve the definition of hero.
How have you been doing since all of this unfolded? It's only been several days, and I'm sure at this point you're still kind of processing everything. Explain to me how you're doing.
I find it interesting. I think it's a different process for everybody. I think I did not know the family directly, but I have friends that do. Initially, I think you go numb, but I think part of the process was Monday night when I'm supposed to go on college visits with my son this week, and we're going down to the Carolinas in Florida. And I told my son, Ben, I said, Ben, I canceled him a couple weeks ago because of the weather in the Carolinas. And I said, listen, Ben, there's a lot going on. You know, let's delay the shooting. And it took me about an hour and a half to realize that I was allowing this person to change what I was doing. I recognized that this is an honor for my son. They asked me to go through these college visits and for us to go through this process and assist him in his next step. And I decided that I was not going to allow this person to change my plans. I was not going to allow him to get in my mind. You know, I wasn't going to give him space. And then that helped. I think that helped me tremendously. The process of the family, the grieving and things, I think you go through, there's a numbness and then there's some realization of it. I think everybody's lost sleep on this. I think you hurt as a community. Now that the event is over, it's focusing on the family. But yeah, yes, sir.
Is there anything about the situation that did happen that you want to make sure you clarify, that you want to make sure people out there know?
Yeah, that a small group of people can change an event. And it's not one person that did something that changed it. It was a group of people. And, you know, in my mind, there were some heroes after the shooting, after the shooter shot himself. It was caring for the wounded. And I saw some incredible individuals jump in, starting CPR, you know, trying to pump on the chest. And then I saw the police department come in, you know, and it was only a couple minutes, first the police and then the paramedics and then the SWAT team. And I was impressed with how they handled themselves and the professionalism of that. They took care of me, and I was fortunate that the Pawtucket Police Department, once they found out that I was involved in the shooting, they kind of isolated me. And I said, because when my wife ran out, she got to the parking lot, she turned around thinking I was going to be there, and I wasn't there. And then somebody told me that I was involved, and I asked to be able to see my wife after, you know, 15 or 20 minutes. And they were kind enough to escort me, and my wife came out and ran underneath the yellow barricade tape and had blood on my hand and blood on my arm. She asked whose blood that was, and I said that was mine. My hand got caught in the gun. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, honey, I'm very proud of you for what you did, but I'm very pissed off at you for putting yourself in that position. The paramedics that picked me up, took care of me. The nurse and the doctor at Miriam Hospital were outstanding in this process. You know, you go through this kind of stuff and you don't know, but there was an outpour of not just trying to, you know, stitch up my hand with blood, but I really felt compassion on the other part of it, which I greatly appreciated.
You are a hero. They are heroes. I know right now you say you don't feel like a hero, and I keep saying it, but you definitely saved countless lives there. Michael Black, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to share a little bit more about what happened for folks out there. Is there anything that we missed, anything that you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
Yeah, that I recognize that when you have an event like this, there's a tremendous amount of attention on it and things like that. I hope that our community continues to support this family in the process. It's, you know, it's kind of like you get the attention and you kind of get forgotten. I'm hoping that as a community, this won't be forgotten.
Michael Black, thank you again for taking the time to join us here. We definitely appreciate it.